Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of hashtag Ask Alex Live. I hope you have all had a good week, as one can do depending on where you are around the world. Weather here in London is great. Been really hot, sunny day, which obviously we're very grateful to have some outside space which we can use. So I'll be looking forward to having a cold beer outside after this. It's been up and down week. Monday was a complete non-starter for me. Couldn't get going. Couldn't get the motivation. But got on Twitter. I wasn't the only one, it would seem. And but then the rest of the week has been good. Continuing to work with one of our clients, which is awesome. Ran their second workshop, which was well received for 40 plus people around Europe. More projects with a couple of law firms, which is good, and starting to see some activity come back, which is always positive and helpful. And I did my second webinar with Leadfeeder. I'll put the link in the content section after this if you haven't seen that. Andy Culligan very kindly hosted me yesterday, where I ran a 101 introduction into social selling, where I walk through, in my view, the three things that you need to consider from a high level. We only had an hour and my sort of 45 minutes of going through this, and then 15 minutes of Q&A, but it certainly evoked some debate around the three things that you should all be considering and remembering, especially in the current world we live, which is your personal brand, your network, and your profile. But as I said, I won't dwell too much on that. I'll just put that link to the webinar for you to look at after this on the channel. One thing that is landing well though, and we use it all the time. This tactic, it is a free tactic, and I have talked about this in earlier posts, but I thought I'd refer back to it again, just to help you understand, what is out there, to help you think a little bit differently, but more importantly, to understand, who is searching what is trending, and how you can go about, understanding what's going on in Google from a search perspective, to then translate this into your content strategy, your marketing strategy, to the words that you put into your LinkedIn profile. And I ran this morning with another one of our clients. He's based in Italy, with our one-to-one sessions that we have, and we did it in Italian. So not only did we do it in English, we did it in Italian, and based on the sort of things that people would be searching, which is what he sells. And lo and behold, what we saw, and I'll show you. I won't show you his search, but I'll show you sort of what we're talking about. That in the last month or so, there's been a massive spike in his native language, in Italian, of people searching these things that his company and his solution provides. But in his LinkedIn profile, in the content that he was sort of sharing, engaging with, this wasn't appearing. Now, of course, this isn't foolproof. This isn't, if you choose to do this, if you start to track this and see what's happening. I'm not sitting here guaranteeing you're suddenly going to get loads of inbound where people have found you, because obviously the internet is a big place. But what we need to make sure is that you are at least giving yourself the best chance you have to be found based on what people are searching and talking about. So what I'm referring to move that out of the way, is Google Trends. So I'm going to do some things here. Try not to break my. So we do this, and so what we're looking for is within Google Trends. So literally just put Google Trends into Google Trends, and it'll come up, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It helps you understand what is being searched for, and we can see that, unsurprisingly, coronavirus search trends is huge, and so you can see what's going on there, and then it kind of explains other things that you can look through, and then these are the recently trending searches. So coronavirus search, Steelers, Jordan Love, and etc. But we want to make it more relevant and appropriate for you. So if I'm going to focus on what I do, so social selling, modern selling, and digital selling. But it could be within your own market. Think about what it is that you sell to, in terms of what do people typically search if they're on the start of their research journey around finding a product or solution that's going to help them solve their problems. What sort of things might they be searching for? So if I type in social, actually type would be helpful. It's been a long week. Social selling. You want to make sure they have to remain the same. So let's go with a search term. We'll look at the difference between the two. So social selling is a search term, and we've just got in the US, so that's fine. We can leave that. But if you want to look at worldwide, or we want to do it particularly by country, so we could go down into, let's try and find United Kingdom, seeing as that's where I am. But we operate globally. So interestingly, the difference between in the UK versus what we saw in the US. How does it all go worldwide? Let's look at that, see what the difference is to worldwide. So worldwide, all over the world, we can see the last 12 months at the moment at 100. That means that it is at the top. You can't get any better than this. And if we look at the dates, unsurprisingly, so Christmas time, obviously people taking time out, starts to pick up. And then this is around where obviously the pandemic starts to come in, bit of a dip, and now we're big spike, big push. And then we can actually go by countries. So what's interesting here is in terms of the regions around where this is, and then you can look at the related things that are being found. So, but I want to compare it to digital selling, and you have to keep it the search term has to remember the same. So we're going to do search term, and then we can start to see the bit of a flattening out now. So yes, social selling is still the key one here, and then we could do modern selling, which is another take on this. Again, I want to make sure that it's the search term. Well, we can see that modern selling is actually pretty flat. So social selling, whilst these are all being searchable, I need to make sure that we've definitely got social selling and social within what we do and what we're talking about, because that is absolutely the top of what's being searched. So really recommend that you use this as a way to understand what is happening, who is searching for what within your areas of expertise, because if you're finding the words that you're looking for, and I'll give an example of what I mean by this. So an organisation who shall remain nameless, this was about 6 to 8 months ago now, wants to change the narrative from change management to change experience, because they feel change management is kind of not really fit for purpose. It's actually change experience as much as the employee experience, which is critical in all of this versus change management. So all their content, paid, all this stuff was keyed and ready to go for around change experience, ready to kind of push stuff out on social. And I was like, that's all well and good, but do people actually understand what you mean by change experience? Because if I'm searching for change management because I'm looking for change management, I'm not looking for change experience because I don't understand what change experience is, then change experience isn't going to be found. So we did exactly this, and we found that change management was up here and change experience was down here, because unsurprisingly the narrative hadn't been changed that people will actually need to be searching for change experience. So there was kind of some embarrassed looks and marketing around the room. Some senior individuals going, what gives here? But what I did say to them, I said, look, you are a large enough organisation globally that if you can get your employee advocacy program up and running and activated, you're a big enough company and a big enough brand that you can change the narrative. You can talk about, going back to I talk about storytelling in terms of your content. Talk about change management and change experience in the same sentences, in the same context. So when people are searching change management, they'll also then start to see the conversation around change experience. So all is not lost, but it was just fascinating exercise to do something that is free on Google Trends to find out what other kind of things are out there. So we just get rid of these, and we can maybe do a different one. So big thing at the moment is obviously kind of HR and HR challenges. So we could do HR systems maybe. HR systems as a search term, and then maybe so on the downside, but again in the regions that it's the relevant things that it's coming up with, so job systems, etc. But maybe I want to do workforce management, because that's a big thing at the moment with what organisations are having to deal with and engage with the pandemic and coronavirus that is happening. So are people looking for, and look, workforce management is back on the uptick, so it's been quite high anyway, but it's starting to come back up again. So again, if this is the space that you operate in, we need to make sure that, provided obviously that you talk to this, but I'm going to make an assumption that if you sell HR systems, it's going to workforce management is going to be part of this as well. And as I said, for those of you that are watching around the world, use this in your own native language. So our client we're working with this morning, we did this in English and Italian, and actually the Italian equivalent of what we were looking for, unsurprisingly, got a much bigger hit in Italy, because most people go into Google and will search in their native language. English is not necessarily the first language of everybody around the world, especially if you're selling to your local market. So, from that perspective, I think that this is a really useful way to work through and just get a sense of what is happening and what is going on out there in your world from a search perspective. The other thing that was come out this week is Simon Kemp and the amazing team at Kepios and other supports around this have shared some of their research. Again, I'll put the links into in at the end. And they release every quarter, and this is the Bible of all things digital. And they give kind of an overall snapshot of what is happening and what's happening in the world. So I thought let's have a look at that, and let's unpack some of that we can see. So I'm just going to move back to Simon's stuff here. So if you just go to Data Reportal, you'll be able to find this stuff. But this is their most recent thing. So unsurprisingly, big jumps in digital activity because of everything that is going on. Increase of social media use, like Kel Surprise, video calling. Yeah, we've seen we've seen everything that's happened around Zoom and Teams, and just to call out Zoom, we use Zoom. I think it's a brilliant tool. Fair play to them in responding to the security challenges and issues. I think their comms strategy has been brilliant, keeping everybody up to date. The updates that are coming through. Accelerating adoption of e-commerce. I've talked about this in earlier #AskAlex Lives. And what I found awesome, I live in SW19 in Wimbledon, and what's been amazing is how the greengrocers and the butchers have all managed to kind of pivot so incredibly quickly to create, to build e-commerce platforms to deliver their fruit and veg. And we get our fruit and vegetables now from an industrial estate down literally around the corner from us. Didn't even know it existed until we saw them kind of promoting themselves on Facebook, etc. And they can't supply the restaurants anymore. So what they're doing is they've got this produce, so they're now doing next day delivery, and we are getting them, incredibly and really, really high quality fruit, veg, dairy, and so on delivered to our door. And they just adopted this kind of the new world order. And what I hope is that moving forwards they actually carry on doing this, because I want to support local communities. I want to support local farmers and local produce. And I think it's really changing the dynamic around e-commerce. So this for me is and especially as we can't get our Tesco online order for love nor money. I'm not surprised about this, and I'm not surprised around video games, because certainly if you're the young generation, or what else are you going to do? You're going to get online and play games, and of course the video games have changed considerably from when I was playing PlayStation way back when, because their communities, it's a community in its own right. So you log on to your video games, and you can still talk to your friends and have some fun. And esports is a burgeoning area anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm a big Formula One fan, and the virtual Formula One gaming It's not actually brilliant in terms to watch compared to the real thing, but it will be fascinating to see how this has come out. So I thought if we just go through some of the key stats, if you look here in terms of overall, so numbers on the up. So almost 60% of the world now has got access to the internet. That number of people that use mobile phones, and close to now half the population uses social media. And we see the year-on-year growth. Again, this is year-on-year, so 8.7% up on social. Another 304 million people have come online. Another 300 million have got access to the internet, and time spent with devices. Everything is on the up. So there is opportunity for us in this space. But what this is going to, what we're going to find is we're not coming back from this. What is absolutely key in all of this is that this is how we now work. And speaking to colleagues and speaking to our neighbour over the fence at a social distance, she was saying that they can't necessarily see themselves even having their HQ isn't London, it's somewhere else, but even needing a footprint in London, full stop, from an office space. Talking to some colleagues in the professional service space, again, organisations realising that they've probably got twice the footprint they need in terms of office space. Because yes, you're going to need somewhere to go to and collaborate and want to meet and greet, but actually working virtually is totally feasible and totally possible. So I think for anybody that thinks that we're going to be going back to where we were is, in my view, I'm just one person, but is sorely mistaken. And we've got here those that continue to plan on the continuation of what's happening post COVID-19. I think these numbers will be higher than what as we go through this. So Simon's stuff is really well worth looking at, because what you get is a huge insight. This goes on and on and on. It's country by country, breakdown by social media platform, by audience size, by advertising size, by if you look at the social media around the around the world, it's the numbers are crazy. Here we go. This is the key thing. Your content strategy has got to be mobile first on social. 99% are accessing social media via mobile. So 100%, let's say 100% of your audience are accessing social via mobile. So if your content is not mobile ready or mobile enabled, then you're going to give I talk about this in some of the workshops we do, you're going to give your audience a really shitty buying journey. And right now, because we haven't got the ability to actually have a physical kind of interaction, the customer maybe I'll do something on this next week actually, the customer experience side of things, the CX side of things is going to be ever more critical. And just I want to call out Sky TV, brilliant job in terms of how they're communicating with their customers. I think whoever is running their comms team and their social team are doing an absolutely cracking job of doing that. So we need to think that mobile first. Now the beauty is, if you're on things like LinkedIn, if you're on things like Twitter and Facebook and all these platforms, of course, they're built for mobile. So the content you're putting on there will likely then work for mobile. But what in a corporate sense, what you don't want to be doing is trying to retrofit stuff that's not made for mobile, because it just won't work. And they would just give them a poor experience. They're going to disengage and they're going to go somewhere else. Let's have another look through what other things we might find. So the world's most used social media platforms, Kelsa Pries, even though Facebook is most hated, it's still up there with close to 2.5 billion people monthly visitors. That's nuts. YouTube on the up, second biggest search engine on the planet, obviously owned by Google. WhatsApp, unsurprisingly. Facebook Messenger, WeChat. WeChat's obviously the big platform. So if we look at this, Facebook, Google, Facebook, WeChat is, my mind escapes me, who owns WeChat. Instagram, Facebook, Douyin, TikTok, massive increase on that, and Snap and Twitter and And Pinterest, so big platforms, not going to go away. We can see age, Facebook and so all these different stats. We could sit here forever talking about this. Some age profiles. Unsurprisingly, the young generation, here, this is your next market. This is your new market. 24 to 30. Well, actually, this is your new market. If you look at over 50%, and even these numbers for the older generation is higher than maybe one would expect. So. Highly recommend this report and start to drill down and just have a play around with it, because so it's highly relevant to anybody in marketing or social, anybody that's interested in social and digital selling. It's really useful piece of information. Now, another report that came out this week from another friend of ours, Tim Williams and the team at Analytica. Released a global study on employees' online presence and influence, and this was specifically focusing on the professional service sector. And I think again highlights that influence is an interesting thing. What influences me versus what influences you is two very different things. We can see exactly the same. Nike advert for a pair of trainers or sneakers or whatever. And we could do two different things. And there's a fascinating book actually called Predictive Analytics, which was written back in a while back now, I think a couple of years ago. And again, I'll put the link to the book in the chat afterwards on the video. Is that again well worth a read? Is that what it talks to is actually trying to work out analytics and influence to get your audience to do what you want them to do versus what you don't want them to do. An example of this was I think it was a Scandinavian telco company, mobile telephone company, had a new offer, so they just emailed this offer out to their marketing database, and what they actually found, that the customers who'd been with them for the longest period of time, after they'd emailed them that offer, actually had a higher propensity to leave and go to another mobile provider rather than attracting the new customers they thought it was going to do. And what they started to kind of figure out is that these customers, or their longest serving customers, weren't going to get much more spend out of them because they kind of maxed out on whatever it was. And actually that marketing campaign, what it had done, it had woken them up, if you will, because they get this email, oh, actually, new offer. If there's a new offer here, might there be a new offer elsewhere? So what that actually did, it did the opposite of what they were trying to do, was attract new customers. It actually lost their longest serving customers. And the book goes into this kind of concept of influence in terms of how can we find the audience that we want to influence to do what we want them to do versus what we don't want them to do. And they go into like politics, and actually this tactic's been used in politics, and Obama used this kind of data research and tactics in his campaign to work out which, to the person, which streets and doors they should go and knock on, who were kind of the swing voters to vote for him, versus if they actually turned up by turning up, but actually probably get them to vote for the other party. It's a really fascinating thing. So anyway, I digress a little bit, but this report released by Analytica is all around employee influence and who's got the most around influence. It's a great read. Highly recommend doing it. But again, it's these kind of questions that are being asked: are visible, active, who are the most influential employees by topic. You see the areas that they cover. Analytica is an awesome social listening analytics platform. Check them out if you're not aware of them. Really worth having a conversation with. So these are some big organisations that are being looked at and tracked. I mean, some big household names here. And what is interesting is, and I'm ex-PwC, so this is Twitter. They're looking at Twitter. But what I find fascinating is that the tail drops so quickly, and this is the key thing around social, is that the big four, unsurprisingly, plus here, massive voice and visibility online. But going back to what I was talking about in terms of Google Trends earlier, they are making themselves visible, so that if you're looking for things that they do around these topics, so let's say you're doing research on RPA, you are more than likely to bump into employees from these firms than you are from anybody from these firms down here. But it could well be that actually within Carney and Company, that they have the best person in the world. It's hypothetical here. I'm literally picking these at random to talk about RPA, but this individual is not making their presence felt because maybe they're relying on the Carney and Company brand to get them in the door. Whereas actually, if you see an individual talking about RPA in a cogent, coherent way online, then you are more than likely to engage and follow and attract them. And that's what we're trying to get across in terms of this concept of social and social selling and having a social presence. That's what this is all about. It's about having a social presence on online, so that people will just bump into you. You're constantly there to have meetings, if you will, with these individuals. And then it starts to kind of break this down by opinion leaders, and then we can see PwC big markets, big market share, and then share of voice per employee. Again, this is really fascinating. I'm a bit of a data geek, but look at the swing from this side to negative. It's just like it's crazy, really, when you think about the opportunity that presents for these companies when we're swinging this side, when you want to be on that side. And then a bit of visualization of how the networks work in terms of Gartner, the least internally connected company. Again, you think, why would that be? But this comes back to behavior. This comes back to understanding. All of this comes back to human behavior. Technology to technology. If you're not articulating to your employees as to the why, the what, and the how, then you're never going to get them to engage. And what's so cool about this kind of data that Tim and the team at Analytica surface is that being able to visualize these communities is really, really awesome. It helps it kind of come to life. Volume of tweets, and bear in mind, volume doesn't necessarily mean good, but if it's volume and it's good, then of course, just by the virtue of the fact there's more of it and it's good, you are going to be found. And as we can see here, PwC are posting twice as much as their nearest competitor. So if you're posting twice as much, and let's caveat the content is good, then you've got a twice as much chance of being found and talked to around all of this. You can see topic conversations. But I want to get down to some of the people though, because I do actually know them. So LinkedIn, I need to hit Tim up actually to understand how they've done this, because LinkedIn is quite opaque around extracting influence and data on that. So it'll be interesting to have a look at this. But you can see LinkedIn is the big topics around here. So what's that? So finance, unsurprisingly. What's the pink one? The pink one is AI. So again, quite a lot of good spread on that. Climate and sustainability. Surprising, you thought there'd be more conversation around that. Small amount, but here, Kearney and Company, at least on the climate space, got a slightly bigger share of voice here. Then we've got potential reach. So again, your reach is how far and wide you can get. So we've got the big four at the top. Companies, again, this is on LinkedIn. And let's try and find the people. Where engagement per post. Top companies are LinkedIn comments. Accenture at the top there. PwC. Employees. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. I follow Mike. Mike shares some great stuff. But I want to pick out Rob, and I hope he doesn't mind me doing this, because Rob is a masterclass in how you can use social to ignore the score, use social to build a brand. He's a great chap to follow. He's very prevalent on Twitter and LinkedIn. He's very funny, but he has built his brand from scratch, from the ground up, from zero, and is now a bona fide leader in terms of things like artificial intelligence, etc. But by having this presence and getting out there and online, and yes, okay, he's supported by the brand that is PwC, but it is all down to Rob, and it is him I've met him and talked to him about this. There is no kind of automation behind this. It's him that does it. There are people in here where I know there's automation. He's now on government panels. He's invited around the world to speak at events because people bump into him and see him as a thought leader. And there's absolutely no reason why anybody in any of these companies down here can't do the same. Anybody can do this. Every single one of you has access to a mobile phone, the internet, and ideas. All of you do this. You just have to want to get out and do this. And what I wanted to kind of bring this to light is that this is, data is brilliant. The visualization of data. Hopefully you can see that by not being present on social, by not being online, you are basically invisible versus those organizations and bear in mind this is not the corporate page. This is people. This is absolutely people. We go back to this bit, this bit here. So these are individuals that are driving this. So this is the critical thing. Why you as people have to own social. You have to want to do it, and you've got to own it. Yes, the content bit is hard, but again, work internally with your marketing team. So I want to give this a go. Help me with my content strategy. All these organizations create more content than you can shake a stick at. The content's not a problem. It's how you disseminate the content with the context behind it to then start to make it relevant. Because I could be posting thousands of tweets about cats, volume is there, but it's just of no influence. It's absolutely of no help whatsoever. So as I said, I'll put the link to this. Check out Analytica. Go and say hello to Tim Williams. He's a lovely guy. Same with Simon at Kepios. But this is the key thing in everything that we're seeing within social, and this is kind of coming back to the new normal, if you will. This is now normal. There will be no new normal. This is normal. So organisations that are able over the next 6 to 12 months, and I'm not disrespecting, not taking away from the fact that there's some massively challenging times. If you're having to, put employees on furlough, if you're having to lay staff off, I recognise that. But those that are able, those that have the opportunity to kind of help support and nurture your teams, revenue generating, client facing, ambassadorial type role, to really help them understand how they can get the best out of social, give them the permission to do it, the framework, the safety net to do it. Because as you've seen, what PwC are able to achieve, actually the majority of the big four are able to achieve, is massive in terms of that reach. And of course that's free. Other than obviously in the employees' time with the content. That is free, it's not paid. That's organic, that's out there. That is free advertising, if you will, or brand awareness for those people and those companies. And at the end of the day, I know some people don't out there disagree with the people by people thing and trust is built on relationships and blah blah blah, but it is a people relationship driven business in terms of a lot of what we all do. So if you're able to then bring that out into the digital and the social world, I say for free. I mean, it's just insanely powerful. As we sit here today in these weird times in 2020, as we can see from that report from Analytica, there is still, and that's just one industry. It'd be interesting to have a look at other industries. Let's see if we can get Tim on for a podcast, or even come do a live thing on here. That'd be a bit of fun. To just chat about the future, the opportunity that presents. So, other than that, another week, and and one final thing. I don't know if you see my hashtag Ask Alex videos. I'm playing around with them, having a bit of fun. So I'm doing Jesse from the Fast Show. The one I did 2 weeks ago, I think won 7,000 views on Twitter. I got trolled for the first time on Twitter by people going, "This isn't funny and not good." And you look at these people; they got 2 followers, and I just like disarming them with ridiculous memes and gifs. So that was fun. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't really care what they think because my audience knows me, and they know why I do what I do, and it's a bit of humour. So if you haven't seen this week's video, go and check it out on LinkedIn and Twitter. Again, Jesse is on TikTok. We're having a bit of fun. I think my wife is going to disown me soon based on the stuff that I'm putting out there, but hopefully it adds a bit of light relief for everyone. But as ever, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. If you're not watching live and watching on follow-up, hope you found this helpful. Please do find me on varying social media platforms. I'd love to connect and have a chat. But otherwise, keep well, have safe weekends, enjoy it, time out, etc. And I will see you all this time next week. Keep well. Bye.